So heading in to our first game today, we're going to be playing Skaven with a heavy weapons team build. Trying to figure out if it's possible or viable to win with it against a variety of factions. But for this one, going to be the mighty Vampire Counts. It's a nice follow-up from the last video. Get to test out this build again. I think my major worry, though, is that if they play patiently enough with their infantry, they'd probably just flank me and run over my army, but we'll see how this goes. Okay. As soon as we get into the game, you guys can see the army. We have 5 warp fire throwers, just to really make sure that we can deal with infantry. Followed by 5 clan rats. Most of them are spears. Their job is to hold down cavalry for as long as possible. And after that, it's 5 rattling gunners, 2 Jezzails, and we brought the spell Howling Warp Gale, and what's it? Is it called Warp Lightning? No, I don't think so. Check in just a second. We bought. Oh, it is Warp Lightning. Okay. But yeah. So let's see how this goes. I think this will be enough to really just hold down the front line. Maybe we want like 3 units of clan rats there and the spears on the flanks. Sort of like so. Feels pretty good. And then the warp grinders. And also be positioned on the flanks. Deal with any troubles come from there. So if we see any cavalry, you guys will be able to go ahead and engage that. Got a healthy amount of Jezzails. Here we go. And cool. Like, this looks like a build. We'll put these guys in the back in case the cav tries to circle around. I'm thinking we want a lot of space between our front line and our back line. That anything that does manage to slip by and get close to our guns will have a lot of time to sort of be ready for that. If cavalry just charges in straight from the front, should be fine, because as soon as they get on top of these warp fire throwers, they're going to get completely annihilated. So here we go. Let's see if this wide formation works. Good luck, have fun to our opponent. See what he has. Thankfully a pretty small army, so we could be in for some fun here. And here we go. It looks like he's brought actually some dire wolves on the left flank, 2 blood knights on the other flank. These guys are definitely going to have to be killed along with the dire wolves, because the front line is too slow to chase away my units. And it looks like he doesn't have a flying, doesn't have any flying units. Interesting choice from our opponent for sure. And these warp grinders can definitely take to the flanks now, as frontline threat is much smaller. Okay, nice. And now that we're getting close, we want our Jezzails to position. Start pressuring those hounds, and can now start melting skeleton spearmen in glorious warp fire. There we go. We've already done about half of their HP and damage. These rattling guns can jump on top of their lord, while these guys kite back now that those units are dead. And we can see those dogs are looping around. Have to be careful with them. And we really just want to screen out those knights. Make sure that get nowhere near us. Meanwhile, our right flank we can hold with some warp lightning and some clan rats. It looks like our left front side is holding pretty well. How's that lord doing? Nice, taking a whole ton of gunfire. So feeling good there, but those knights are coming in. We're gonna have to be ready to turn and face them. Let's go ahead and do that. These warp fire throwers are doing okay. And nice, our warp grinders caught the knights. So a little bit of crossfire, and we should be good. These dogs are coming in, and there's a summon now. A bit of a problem. Deal with the Sternsman first. Move in our clan rats to support. And we actually have some zombies on this side. We'll want to be careful about for sure. Let's see if we can warp lightning those dogs. And these ones are getting shot up nicely. Our priority. Dealing with that cavalry, those zombies are being outpaced. The warp fire throwers, so they can go ahead and launch a volley. There we go. Dealing about half HP damage. Those Sternsmen can also get kited since we have 2 units of ranged Skaven. And so far we're doing pretty good. The main problem is that the dogs are still alive and healthy, but I think there's only 1 unit of knights left. And if we have enough guns by the end of all this, I'd be feeling confident for sure. Dogs rushing into some warp fire. Let's see if we can melt them. And oh my gosh, yes, for sure. Can do that. Pretty nice there. Let's bog down his lord while we fire in on those Regiment of Renown Crypt Ghouls. And okay, main priority still is taking care of the knights. The rest is just infantry that we can kite for the rest of the game. Would be no problem at all. So that's going to be our focus. Warp lightning I'm going to put here so that if he does charge in to our troops, then he's going to get hit. Looks like we timed that a little bit incorrectly. No matter, because those blood knights are getting completely demolished. Just need a little bit more damage and they should be down. Also slow down his lord with our clan rats. And nice, it looks like the warp fire throwers doing well against the knights. Now there's few enough knights where I think they can fire in on these skeletons. The grave guard I haven't checked. And nice, they can. There we go. Some very good crossfire. Melts them down to about half HP, but we got even more skeletons coming in from this side. We're going to bring our warp grinders to delay those zombies with some clan rats. We have crypt ghouls in the back, but we actually don't have to worry about killing them yet. Since they're attacking the back side of those warp fire throwers, you can see that they can still fire. And they won't be taking too much damage thanks to their 70 armor. Actually pretty good for us. And it looks like we got yet more zombies that need to be kited. And a weapons team that can come into support. Now those crypt ghouls, they have routed off one of the warp fire throwers, but not before they manage to get a whole ton of damage. And also shoot onto the flank of those crypt ghouls with this nice crossfire positioning. But it looks like we got some routes on hand. A little bit worried there. These warp grinders, we're actually going to freeze his lord in place and give him a nice shooting. And let's see, we got Graveguard engaging on spears. Here we go, he's getting close. But nah, it's fine. We're just going to shoot you at point blank range if you don't mind. And as soon as these guys fire. Alright, looks like they're having a bit of a hard time firing. No matter. Because I think we've actually won this game by the looks of it. Let's not get overconfident here. Most of our guns are pretty easy to shut down. Luckily for us, took out a lot of the mobility. And you can see here Vlad is now getting crossfired 2 Rattling Guns. Actually, Rattling Gun and a Giselle, even better. So let's see, we're just going to keep spreading out our units. Because these undead guys are very easy to kite. And after that, I think we're good. Manfred hitting army losses, or actually that's Vlad. And yeah, there we go. That's how you beat vampire counts, guys. That is how you do it. Wow. Strangely effective, this build. Now, of course, if our opponent, you know, if he brought slightly different armies or who knows what, this build could fail pretty spectacularly. So I'm not sure exactly if it's the best build ever. But it's definitely a very fun one. You can tell because these warp fire throwers have almost 100 kills on each of them. And that's all they needed. They just melted those Graveguard. We also see Blood Knights with 0 kills. I think really a big thing here though is that our opponent really did not keep his mobility very safe, which of course it's hard with all these guns. But even having 1 knight in the late game is very useful for running down all the Skaven. And yeah, we're going to see if this build works. So, as we had last game, have 2 Warp Grinders to hold down either infantry or monstrous units. We'll position them where they are needed, depending on whichever flank or side of our army is getting the most pressure. Our front line consists of 5 Warp Fire Throwers, mostly because with this much fire, they do so much damage that honestly, there's not a whole lot that they're too worried about, at least on the infantry side. For our gun line, we have 1,000,000 Rattling Guns and some Warplock Giselles. And to hold off anything coming in from the flanks, I'd rather have these Clan Rat Spears on the flanks. And then I'll put the Skaven Slaves in front. The reason I do this is because Skin Wolves will just run over Skaven Slaves. So we have a little bit more of a threat by putting Clan Rat Spears here. Our Warp Grinders will be near the center. This is not where we want them to be when the engage starts. But we're putting them in the middle so that no matter where they need to be, they can reach it pretty quickly. Whenever I decide to reposition them. Put some Skaven Slaves on the flanks. And one of them up front. Like so. There we go. And yeah, this guy will just run up. Delay them for the precious few seconds so that we can get another volley of Warp Fire. And for Squulk, you're going to be a little bit further forward. I'm expecting a pretty heavy infantry force to come our way. So Squulk will be able to put summons there. But in case we see a bunch of Skin Wolves in the back, he's close enough to run back. Put summons there too. That, I think this army's done. We can ready up. See? Let's see. Optimus fine. I will note. We don't want to get too political here. Especially since we're Canadian, and that's not really related to us, but not the place. Not the place. Now, okay. Taking a look at our opponent's army. He has Throg and Ephemer Balefiend, along with a whack load of infantry, mostly the cheaper variety, and some Skin Wolf and Norsca Ice Wolf support. Very interesting army. He even has Marauder Hunter Javelins. So I think he's going to be in for a rough time, given the amount of infantry that we have here. And given how few actual skirmishing units he has. Here. I think the joke is good, but still, I don't want to involve myself too much, even on the joking side, just in case it sparks anything worse. But anyways, on to the game. You can see that he is sending in his flanks, but if I were him, I'd be a little bit worried about the timing that those flanks are coming in. I'm going to move up our warp grinders to stall Throg in case he does decide to charge in. Then he'll be able to eat a whole ton of rattling gun fire. Looks like we have a wind spell. What's that? Pendulum? It is, and we do manage to dodge it, so no big problem there. We can turn our guns where they need to go and put some warp fire in on that infantry. And there we go. They are getting a little bit close. And oh dear, we've actually let some skin wolves jump in on top of us. Pull those guys back. Use our infantry to... our warp fire to kill his infantry. Or like. And freeze those skin wolves in place. There we go. A little bit late to the draw. But I think we're okay. We're going to pull back those warp fire throwers, retarget the infantry, turn our guns to finish off the skin wolves. We're going to be turning all the guns because we really want those guys dead. At this point, we are seeing an infantry flank coming in from this side. But I do believe it's going to be just a little bit too late, as we also see Throg coming in now. But that's not a problem. We can snare him with our warp grinders and delay his charge. Now that the skin wolves are routed, we can turn guns onto Throg and shoot him down. Hopefully we can get a rout from him, but we'll have to see. We also have... oh man, there was a lot more wolves than I expected here. It could be a problem, although we've dealt with most of the infantry in the front. Meanwhile, it seems I have completely forgotten about Squulk. But there we go, a nice shot onto Throg. And it looks like that's going to be it for him. He begins routing. And now Squulk can do his thing. And throw down a million summons. And win us the game. Throg now routing. And with that, have a game. GG. You guys. Let's see. So he really did only have two wolves, but it felt like a lot more. Our lines were very nearly overwhelmed due to our lapse in micro. But thankfully, having that slightly staggered approach from our opponent really helped out with clearing out the infantry. And without any infantry support, Squulk would really just be able to carry the day. First Chaos, we do have Burning Head. We'll hopefully be able to clear out our opponent's forces. Have some Silver Chevron Marauders too, since this build was sort of just rushed and we had an extra 200 gold. And a Manticore to bring in that terror. This guy we really want to keep alive, since if he dies, we don't have any more terror, which would be very bad against a faction like Skaven and their very low leadership. In fact, I think he's our only source of fear too. So it might be good to just leave this guy in reserve till he's really needed. Put him on 5. We'll put our dogs on 1. And we can go pretty wide, since I do believe we have a better mobility strength than the Skaven, unless he goes for Doom Wheels or Doom Flayers. Nice, our horsemen can go in front. I don't believe they're in range to get shot by Jezzails at the start. And I think it should be good. Optimus Pine. That is a terrible, terrible pun. I'll rate it just good enough for me to not ban you instantly. But yeah, alright, anyways. I feel like that's completely unrelated to what I've been doing here, though, but... Anyways, let's see if we're able to overrun this Skaven force. I am expecting fairly heavy gunplay from them. This is why I have so many mobile assets. And I'd be a little bit worried he has a huge blob. Looks like maybe not. He's opted for the avalanche mortars. The Skaven slave frontline. Which confuses me a bit because now I'm not sure where his money went. This looks like about half his army, so I'm expecting maybe be some stealth units? Or maybe this Plague Priest has a lot of abilities, which he doesn't. So maybe perhaps some Eshin troops we'll have to see. Those avalanche mortars, though, are putting in a little bit of fire onto our horsemen. Thankfully, we are able to dodge that. And there we go. We can see that indeed our opponent has a whole bunch of Eshin units. But honestly, not a huge problem. You can see on the left side, our chariots are able to put in a lot of work. And with our dogs in the back line, feeling a little bit more confident. You do see that my dogs are engaging on the rat ogres. And I do find that they are able to do quite a bit of damage since the rat ogres are pretty low armored. A nice catch from our opponent here. Pinning down our chariots with his warp grinders, followed by sending in some death runners. It's a little bit of a problem for those chariots. We'll have to make do with our remaining chariots. I don't believe we can save them, but we did get a nice punish on our opponent with a burning head on top of his troops. You can see those dogs kill those rat ogres quite handily, which means that we still have a ton of mobility, but oh, would you look at that, we got some Eshin triads that we don't want to be engaging on. We'll just pull away from them. And now that the warp grinder ability is down, we can jump on them with our cavalry. Hounds doing very good here. And with the infantry now pouring into the back, you can be much less worried about those triads. We'll just stick some marauders onto them. And they should be very cost effective. On top of that, we have dogs coming in from the flank. We've set up that order so that when the fighting happens here, they'll be able to get a nice charge in and hopefully melt those triads. Just in case they don't, though, let's throw down a burning head. Could help a lot. Those avalanche mortars actually getting some pretty good shots on our warriors with great weapons. But honestly, I think it's totally fine that that's happening. There aren't many armored troops on the Skaven front for us to worry about. So this is a perfectly fine unit for us to be taking damage. And now we're seeing the actual, a lot of where our opponent's money has been going to. And that is these Death Runners, who were deployed in Vanguard by the looks of it. And are only now coming in to help with the fight. We are putting warriors with great weapons in to stall them, which typically isn't a very good trade. But as I said earlier, there aren't a ton of armored units that we're worried about, and it lets us set up this nice charge in the back with the hounds, who should be able to do quite a bit of damage to those, to those death runners. We can see that indeed they do a lot of damage, and with the Manticore support, managed to rout one of them off. We'll need to be ready to catch them later, since we don't want them to be rallying. Whoops. Being a little bit careless with our horsemen. Going to pull them out of the fight while Archaon duels Deathmaster Snicketch. Let's see, it looks like we have a whole nice glob of infantry there that we'll be able to take out. We have our horsemen in place to chase off the units that route in this direction, and GG. Nice. Nice. It's nice. Yeah. I think, honestly, our engages might have been a little bit too fast. Our opponent wasn't really able to defend his backline. You can tell because of the low kill count on his range units. Except for the avalanche mortars, which we did let them land quite a few shots in the late game. But yeah, honestly, I think just that backline, which would have been integral for dealing with a lot of our main threats here, just crumpled apart a little bit too quickly. And if we do see a whole bunch of Scourge Runners, our main way of dealing them would be netting them, and then just loosing a bunch of arrows. Which honestly is not an optimal situation for me. You see very few units from our opponent, which is good, thanks to the fact that we have limited ammo. So yeah, that's what we'll really have to be careful about. Have to take care of those high priority targets and make sure that we don't waste ammo, that we have enough to actually take them out. Things that we don't want to be shooting at are chaff, like just dread spears and bleak swords. For that, we have our cavalry, our chariot. Scourge runners are a little bit of a problem. Our main way of dealing with them is this great eagle in case they try to push through our lines, and Teclis's net along with a bunch of volley fire. If we do see elite infantry, have fiery convocation. So that would actually be a pretty good situation for us, since combined with the net can guarantee a nice hit with it. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's look at our opponent's build. It does have about 600 troops. So I am expecting quite a bit of elite infantry, but it could just be a mass cavalry force. And look at that. Looks like we're going to be seeing quite a few Scourge Runner chariots. Hey Zyphos, yeah. We're switching off Skaven for just a second, so that I can get a little bit of variety here. And it looks like we got Malekith here. Maybe we can get a snipe on him. I will be moving in my troops to set that up. Now, Scourge Runners, they're not going to do a whole ton of damage to this Lion Chariot. So I do hope that they keep shooting in on it. And in the meantime, get a net on Malekith and just shoot him with 1,000,000 arrows. Looks like it actually didn't do too much damage. Maybe 2 times the charm will send in another volley. Our opponent noticing that those, that his shots aren't doing a whole ton of damage to the Lion Chariots. Now switching to the Dragon Princes, very good on him. But hey, looks like we're getting some pretty good picks on his infantry here, and those Lion Chariots are doing crazy amounts of damage to his infantry. We are seeing that he is returning fire with some Dark Rider crossbows. Have to be careful with those guys. And Malekith charging in. We're going to loose another volley in on him and hopefully heal up those Lion Chariots that are now broken. Pretty big misplay on my part. Our Shadow Warriors are going to have to continue running back. And now we actually have some Cold One Knights coming in. But we're going to get a pretty juicy charge with our Dragon Princes. They do charge into each other. See if our Dragon Princes win out there. I think we need 1 more Winds of Magic to net all those Dark Riders. Oh, it's actually 18 Winds of Magic. So, okay. This is looking a little bit rough now, actually. Now that he has dived on our back lines. But maybe we'll be able to do well with the fiery convocation. Honestly, it doesn't seem like the best convocation possible. So I am pretty worried here now. Teclis getting surrounded too by these Cold One Knights. Seems like this could be a problem with those chariots on top of me. Let's get our Dragon Princes in. We have routed off his cavalry. And these chariots aren't the best in combat. So hopefully that's enough. Our Shadow Warriors will continue kiting back. They have fire at will on, since OG's ammo isn't too big of a problem. The Teclis is now in trouble. Might have to sacrifice the Great Eagle. keep him alive there. Our dragon princes too have routed. Pretty big problem, since they were the main way of dealing with all of this cavalry and chariot action in our back line. That fiery convocation didn't do too much damage to the Dark Rider crossbows either. Pretty big problem. But we do have our dragon princes back. We're going to rush them in, try and deal with this mess in our back lines. But this is looking, it could be game. Perhaps we had used our nets ineffectively there. Meanwhile, Teclis taking a big beating. We're going to get some healing on him. That's not enough. And GG. Yeah, I think really for this game, it felt like we just had our backlines overwhelmed. But I do know a lot of our important resources, like our dragon princes and our nets from Teclis, were really badly used. We did deal with the infantry very well with the lion chariots, but maybe it wasn't worth it. Maybe we just wanted a few more dragon princes there to hold off against stuff like this triple chariot. But yeah, clearly a lot of things to improve on, and I think if I had changed my build a bit and played a little bit better, we could have won it. This should be good, but honestly, I have no idea. This type of playstyle is very much untested. We'll have to see if it succeeds, but so far, at least in quick battle, it seems like a very okay build. The like a major threat that we could see here is just a lot of mobility, since I think if our guns get jumped on top of, there's not a whole ton we can do to defend. And the Greenskins player here just goes for, let's say, 1,000,000 orc boys. It could just be an instant loss. We'll have to see. It used to be that poison replaced higher rattling gunner slow. Actually made the poisoned unit faster. Alright, if that is the case, there are a few ways we can deal with it. I think I remember hearing about that before. One way that we could do it is that we give poison to one of our rattling gunners so that they apply poison, and then the other one can apply the suppressed effect. Another way to do it is just to put it on our clan rat spears, so that when we send them out to defend, they'll be able to have a similar effect. Or alternatively, we just don't get as many slows, which sort of sucks, but not the worst case scenario. Now, moment of truth. Let's see how many troops our opponent has. And only 1,000. That's pretty good for us, since honestly, massive amounts of infantry are the main problem here. So cool. Cool and cool. We're going to put, once again, our gun line pretty far back, because they're just here to defend our front line. They're not actually supposed to be shooting the enemy. So our first line of defense here, this box, is our main DPS strength. And then in the back, the guns covering them. Let's put our bombardiers here, near the middle, so that they're protected by the guns, and if cavalry comes here, they'll be able to swoop around and hopefully kill a whole ton of cavalry. We'll have to see. Put our front line on 2, our main handguns on 3, warp grinders on 1. They will be very important for stopping that cavalry. And there we go. Let's see what our opponent has bring to us today. As of right now, it seems that we cannot see them. It is a little bit of an issue, since if they are rushing, you don't have a nice window to react whatever they'll be throwing at us. Hopefully, actually, if he did bring a bunch of artillery, I think that would be a good thing for us. Mostly because we have so many weapons teams here. I don't think artillery would be able to kill them all. So, okay, a little bit of a scary situation trying to go over this hill. If our range units are on this side of the hill, when we get engaged on, that would be very bad. And immediately we're seeing some goblin wolf riders along with some pump wagons. Pump wagons are a welcome sight for us, since they have very little HP, only 3,000. And they'll die like very quickly to our pump wagons. Bomb charging in, which is, I must say, crazy move, as we shall see in just a second. Yeah, Grom is going to have a hard time soon as those guys get their volley fire on him, and there we go. He procced his banner, so hopefully he won't die too quickly. And oh dear, trolls are actually a pretty big problem here. Okay, yeah, we're going to throw down another slow, and we can see Grom is barely able to escape that. But big problem here, we really not want this infantry to overrun us. Let's start bringing things to the right flank. And whoa, something killed all my warp grinders. Not sure what did that. But okay, infantry is dealt with. Next up, we want to deal with those orc boys. Going to reposition these troops, put those clan rat spears over there to delay any advance. And the next goal is to deal those trolls that are very slowly pushing through. There we go. We're casting spells, which means that everything is barely moving at all. Yeah, let's turn guns on those spiders. And these guys can snare that river troll hag. Have some more infantry coming in that way. Have to be careful there. That only affects flying units. Stone trolls are routed off. And those spider riders are having a hard time. Let's see. These guys should reposition. And oh man, I do really want another summon. Okay, let's see. Grom is back. That's a little bit of a problem. Those spider riders are on top of us. Orc boys shouldn't be a problem, but man, our lines are getting overrun. I think bring these warp grinders back because we really want to secure our left flank. And let's see, those guys get trolls. These guys will slow those trolls. And yeah, let's see if we can rout them. Little bit of focus fire. Ooh, that's slow, not being nearly as effective as I would have liked. Okay, our guns are firing now. We're going to see if we kill those trolls. Balance of Power likes us, since it did do a lot of damage to his leadership. And there we go, huge amounts of burst damage on the trolls. And we actually get them routed. Very nice. Poisoned death globes and attack the orc boys. And those clan rats need to run away for their lives. Oh, we do have a few more spiders coming in from the back, but thank goodness we did have some clan rat spears there to defend. And Grom is coming in again. Ruin our day. There's death globe bombardiers putting in a ton of damage into him, though. Hopefully we can get him routed. And then that should be a pretty good break from the greenskin forces. Let's see, they're here. Getting him killed will be big here, since our main strategy for dealing with the greenskin units is breaking their leadership. We have trolls coming in once again, but this time a lot weaker. And we can expect to rout them off with some fire. There we go. A little bit of warp fire comes in. It touches them, and they do manage to stay, but a huge volley coming in from the left. And actually, that didn't do too much damage, so that's a little bit of a problem. Have to be careful here. More trolls coming in. But now we're with death globes. with a little bit of support, should be able to take them out. Pump wagons are shutting down my weapon teams there. We're not very appreciative of that. But okay, nice. That's the trolls dealt with. We'll give them a bit of a slow and pull our death globes back. I think they are our main priority this game if we want to get the win. So there we go. They're in a relatively safe position, and they're going to do their best. Try and get some shots off on Grom. Since just a little bit of damage should finish him off. Nice, we do have some rattling guns coming back. They'll be able to punish fighter riders, and in 2 seconds we'll be able to get a snare. There we go. That's absolutely massive. Now we can just let our death globes do their thing. We'll throw this down since there's no flying units. And nice, we have Grom routed. The trolls are snared. So all we gotta do is turn our death globes, and with the final volley, that should be it. They actually didn't do too much damage. A little bit of a problem, especially now that they're engaged. Let's get our units in on top of them. Maybe another summon. A charge in the back. We'll deal with that. And there we go. We didn't even need to use the summon. And at this point, I'm feeling much more confident. Grom's going to be routing off the map. And with only trolls left, I don't think he'll have enough leadership to actually stay in the fight for any appreciable amount of time. There we go. They rout. Thankfully, we have some clan rat spears again on the side. And man, the Greenskins just refusing to rout. They keep coming back in waves. Let's see, it's really just those archer boys left and some pump wagons. Hopefully get the pump wagons to rout, which we do. We can send these clan rats over to the archers. And after that's done, I think should be pretty easy army losses. What does he have left? Oh wow, we had a whole unit of clan rats charging off into the distance. Whoopsie daisies there. Going to bring them back. Win out this fight. But yeah, it's looking like a victory. Our opponent is consolidating their forces. But we have ours. You can see we do still have some rattling guns. And I'm not sure there's much that our opponent can do here. We even have our Death Globe Bombardiers routing off some goblins with a single volley. And this should be the last volley of the game, as these Snotling pump wagons get slowed down to snail's pace, 38 speed, to get routed off too. With that, GG. Yeah, Oblivion John, that was a little bit of lag that game. But not enough to really severely impact it. So nice. A little bit sketchy there. How did each of our units do? These Poison Wind Globadiers, they did okay, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I think the Warp Fire Throwers already do their job. But what I really like are these Death Globe Bombardiers. They do a lot of damage to stuff like Stone Trolls and single entities and Grom. Maybe I'll replace my Giselles with these guys. Look at that too. They killed a lot of infantry. 109 kills. Seems pretty good to me. And of course our Rattling guns. Very good for the slows and focus firing those primary targets like the Troll Hag, Grom, Stone Trolls, and Pump Wagons. I feel like it's definitely a fun build. And maybe if I perfect it, then I'll actually be able to bring it to tournaments. Although, yeah, it does really rely on those Warp Fire Throwers being effective. But yeah, this is something that we've only just started trying. We're not entirely sure how terrible it is yet. We'll have to see. Okay, I think we're done setting up. See how this goes. Death globes. Very nice. They cover basically the whole army. And if they get a few volleys off, they're very deadly. So let's see how this goes. These guys are our main single entity killers, and the front line is the anti-chaff. We're basically playing Vampire Coast in Skaven form. And looking at our opponent, we did play against them earlier, and it appears he has taken the exact same build. Pretty good for us, since we did beat this build last time. Although the map that we were on, definitely a lot harder to flank. We'll see if he gets the better flank this time. First things first, we have a little bit of repositioning to do. Warp grinders want to be near Throg. These ones want to be near that mobility. In the meantime, our spears will be getting in position to protect our lines. And we have our death globes ready to snipe out Throg when the time comes. And oh dear, our opponent has moved a little bit too close to the warp fire. And that is giving him trouble for sure. Pendulum coming in along with his lord, who's now snared. And looks like they're going to be taking quite a bit of damage. Let's see here. The flankers are taking their time to move in. That's all good. And we got some infantry fighting some Skaven slave spears, who will shortly get killed by some poisoned wind. Not poisoned wind. Warp fire and death globes. Now our opponent is moving down along the flank, and we did not position our spears too well in this situation. Some berserkers actually moving in from the flank, deciding not to engage the warp fire throwers. I think that is a misplay. And here we go. The fight begins. We're going to have to see if our guys are able to hold. Some hounds do manage to get in on top of some of our guys. But they are taking crossfire now, along with the skin wolves. And on this side, we're going to be snaring them. There we go. To keep our guys alive for a little bit longer. Throg now coming in. We can easily snare him. And with a little bit of crossfire, I think he is dead. That's good. And nice, we've routed off the skin wolves. We can move these guys in. Deal with those skin wolves. We're getting some warp fire along those lines. And it looks like we should have a very easy win there. So GG. I think our opponent walked into our snares a little bit too much and simply got punished for it. Even though he did have a pretty nice surround. Along with that, his army might not have been optimal here. And he definitely took way too much warp fire damage. You can see warp fire throwers. Many kills. We're going to be taking about the same formation as last time, since it seems to be working out pretty well for us. But the warp fire throwers over here up front. These are our zombie bombers, essentially, with our warp grinders on the side. So that basically our guns are less effective than the Vampire Coast guns. But what makes the big difference here is that we have a bunch more tools than Vampire Coast has. So like, these are less effective deck gunners, these are less effective handguns, and these are less effective zombie bombers. But Vampire Coast does not have warp grinders, and they can't afford a calf frontline cheap as the Skaven, since they don't have Skaven slaves. They also don't have nearly as many slows, so the units that come in are coming in at full speed. So what I'm trying to figure out here is if the Skaven utility is enough to make up for their lack of powerful guns. Hopefully that goes pretty well in our next game against the Dark Elves. And wow, that is a small army. He is in for a very rough time. Unless he has a ton of skirmishers. You can see, we already have the concave set up. Visible from the mini-map. And, yeah, setting up in box formations. Which will be pretty bad when he comes in contact with our warp fire throwers. We're going to make sure that he has actually spent all of his money. It looks like putting it into 2 War Hydras, Malekith, and some elite infantry. I am expecting this to go very bad for our Dark Elf friend here. But we'll see. Put our Skaven slaves lengthwise in the hopes that, let's see, if they do get engaged, it will set up some pretty nice lines of fire for our warp fire throwers. And the Master charging in to our Grey Seer, putting in a little bit of damage. But he's going to be in for a rough time when these snares get in range. Then again, do the snares even have to get in range? Well, we're going to do it anyways. There we go, and that should be a dead Master. Now, as we might have thought, some cavalry is coming in from the side. So we will have to be careful there, and it looks like he is really trying to goon out my Lord. Bringing him pretty low, and we haven't made a bit of a misplay. We let our weapon teams get caught up a tiny bit. Our Lord is running for the hills. You know, maybe our opponent will be able to pull out a win here. Have to see. Our Death Globe Bombardiers are doing well. But, yeah, it really depends on Malekith here. Wow, those Death Globes do a whole ton of damage, those Witch Elves were in for a bad time. Malekith now running. And the Hydra coming in to engage our guns. We will be turning all of them to try to take it out. It really depends on how well those Death Globes do. Where's our Lord? It looks like he's going to be chased off by Malekith. But these Dark Riders are finally getting taken out. And if we're just able to kill these Hydras, I think we might be okay. They do rout off our main snare, though. That could be a problem. We are getting some routes in the backline, and it would be pretty bad if we did lose this game. See some Dread Spears there being held up by slaves. No biggie. And it looks like, oh dear, our Lord is off the map. Especially bad in this situation. But it really depends on if our units are able to come back from route. The Hydra is jumping in on top of our, let's see, weapon teams. But we should be able to get a double snare on them. Let's see in just a second. There we go. We managed to snare them. And we're getting a huge rally on the side. And some pretty good shots onto Malekith now. Let's see here. Ooh, a rout from our troops that were intended to snare the Hydras. Ooh, this is looking pretty bad. I think the focus fire on Malekith did not pay off. And losing our caster so early might have caused us to lose here. I'm not sure we can take out those Hydras at this point. Let's see, we got some Jezzails in the back. Going to turn and fire at the Hydras. But having 50% damage on all of his monsters is giving us a little bit of a problem. Let's see if our troops are able to hold. Breath attack comes in. And let's see, we do have some poisoned Death Globe Bombardiers. They are our main damage against the Hydras. So going to see if we can rout off one. Okay, we do manage to rout off one. If we rout off the other, there is a chance. Let's see, these guys are going to be chasing the Hydra. Come on, chase it. These guys are going to be firing on them. Let's see here. We do have a Jezzail in the back. And yeah, if we chase these guys off, it will help us out quite a bit. Let's see, and there we go. That one should be routing in just a second, and we do manage to get it to route. But can we keep them running? That is the big issue here. We do have a unit of Jezzails. These guys Ooh, man, I'm not sure they're going to be fast enough. I think that Hydra will be coming back, which is a huge shame. But okay, let's see. We are routing off a little bit of infantry there. And it looks like the Hydra does turn back for just a second, only to rout again. That's a good situation for us. We have our Death Globes. We'll be running there, but some Rally Dark Riders in the back line could seal our fate here. That Hydra does come back. And okay. This is going to come down to our Death Globes. Oh man, honestly, I think if we had just defended our backline a little bit better, we could have won this. But I'm still holding out hope. These Death Globes are routing off the Hydras pretty quickly, shattering one of them. Looks like he had routed 3 times. So if we can just shatter the other one, I think we're okay because it's just Malekith. So we get a volley off on these Dark Riders. It looks like they're going to rout off. Very good for us. Nice. So okay, we just have 2 monstrous units for the Dark Elves left. And we might actually be able to squeeze out a victory. Very important, though, that we keep these Death Globe Bombardiers split apart so that if Malekith does indeed come into land, they'll be able to get that crossfire. Malekith in the distance, coming back. And it looks like he wants to gather up with the Cardibris. Good choice from him. And while we wait for him to engage, we're just going to take a quick second to recover some stamina on our troops. That will increase their morale a bit. And let's see, it looks like he's pulling back, trying to recover some Witch Elves by the looks of it. But I don't think that's what he needs to do. I do believe he wants to get engaged. And we really lucked out with this Hydra, having it rout 3 times. It's at almost full health now. And what's this? This is a Cardibris, so it won't be regenerating. I think we might have a decent chance of winning here. We'll see. He has Soul Stealer. Probably. Says Glyph Total War. That is true. We'll have to be careful not to run into that. Desperately trying to bring back those Witch Elves. Although I'm not sure those Witch Elves are the most important unit here. Man, honestly, if we had just managed to keep our Lord alive, I think we would have done better. But okay, our opponent is just he's deciding not to engage. So he doesn't want to engage. I guess we won't either. And we'll just wait here to try to regenerate stamina on our troops instead, while our opponent takes his time. This would be breaking tournament rules for the rules of engagement. But here it's not too much of a biggie, as it is quick battle. And our opponent hasn't engaged either. Nice, it looks like our Warp Fire Throwers now getting their stamina back. That's good. And they don't have too many targets here. Their main job, actually, is just to reduce the leadership. With that -8 over there. Okay, looks like our opponent is coming in for that final strike. Just moving in with only Malekith. Going to see if he's able to seal out a victory here. I'm a little bit skeptical, but we can expect a Soul Stealer, probably. We can pressure him with Warp Fire Throwers, though. And if he doesn't dodge well enough, those Death Globes are going to give him a lot of trouble. You can see he's already taking a little bit of damage. And there we go, there's the Soul Stealer. Looks like it might clip some of the Death Globes, maybe just a single unit. And okay. We're going to turn off our fire here. Make sure that we don't run out of ammo. And Malekith, he is throwing down a breath attack. They're going to split up our Death Globes, hitting most of the damage there. And hopefully our Warp Firers can get a little bit of fire. Oh man, those guys are low on leadership. He's using up all of his spells. So hopefully he'll land, and he does. This is our opportunity for the Death Globes to get in there. Meanwhile, we really want to get the snare with these guys. Let's see if we're able to do it. But it doesn't look like it. As Malekith... Oh, he just barely takes off right as our snare comes down. That is a pretty big problem. Alright, so we're going to keep unleashing some volleys his way. But going to be dancing around, and we definitely don't want to be running out of ammo. Let's see, our warp fire throwers can deal with those guys. So that should be pretty easy enough. We will throw down a slow over there, and come on, warp fire throwers, I believe in you. There we go, they do manage to get a shot off, but it misses, and we won't be able to get a whole ton of damage there. Now we do have an alternative way of coming out on top here, and that is, well, first of all, if our opponent just suicides Malekith. Is that the case? But no, we actually get a mass terror out, and that is GG over there. So actually a pretty close game, and honestly just playing slightly better would have won it for us there. So GG. I think the main problem here is really just letting our backlines get overrun. In fact, I don't think I need a whole bunch of spears in our front line. I think just leaving them in the back line for cavalry defense might be the way to do it here. But yeah, summons are probably the better answer here. Have to see. No rat ogres for Big Bird. That is true. Big Bird is pretty scary here. I think our only answer actually are the assassins. Thank you very much, Zyphos, for that suggestion. But yeah, see how well we do. We have our two assassins. We're going to position them in the front to stall out that infantry for our front line of warp grinders to do their wonderful work. To protect the warp grinders, we're going to have a very far back line of rattling gunners. They'll be able to protect the flanks from cavalry, and they'll also be able to gun down any single entities try to charge through there. You can put these guys really far back, and they'll also have spear support to keep them safe. We really want them safe, so these spears are going to be very close to our rattling gunners. If they do need to fire, we can micro these spears out of the way to help out with that line of sight. For our second line of defense, we have these Death Globe Bombardiers, our main DPS against a whole variety of targets. We just want to make sure that they are safe, and they'll be able to do their job. In the middle, position these warp grinders. Typically not a very useful place for them to be, but having them close or in the middle means that they can reposition to wherever we need them. We just be very careful that we keep an eye on threats and make sure that they don't sneak up on us like last game. So there we go. Here is our army, and let's see how well it does. It's very wide. It's basically just an extended box of multiple lines. Our opponent could go in for the long flank, but I think spreading out your troops thin could be a problem here. We'll have to see. Now on for our opponent, it seems like he has brought a similarly sized army, which means not a whole ton of infantry. Pretty good for our warp fire throwers here, since that crossfire will be able to route just about anything. Yeah, Sartorial is definitely a problem here. And I think if we do see Sartorial, we might just pull out our assassins into the backline immediately, just to make sure that they're alive, because nothing else can really deal with him, except for just an absolutely insane amount of gunfire. And it has to be a lot of gunfire, because I think he has something around 75% missile resist, which is a big problem for builds like this. Yeah, our opponent is taking a while, but it looks like he is ready. And for his Lord choice, I don't see his Lord. So, okay, that's interesting. It can't be sartorial then, and maybe, you know what, they're just hiding in the forest there. So, okay, we'll begin our approach on our opponent. And we're going to see how well these Warp Fire Throwers do against the Mirror Guard and Chaos Marauders. Chaos Spawn? Oh boy, that's a pretty big problem too. And already I'm a little bit nervous here. You guys are going to want to move up to snare any troops that come our way. Has spotted the assassins. Sending in the Chaos Spawn first. Very smart play from our opponent. And there we go. We do see his Lord Choice Archaon throwing a sideways fireball at our Lord, actually. Which does miss, thankfully. And those Chaos Spawn take a lot of damage from those Warp Fire Throwers. Very good for us. His Horsemen shouldn't really be able to do much to our what's-its? To our Rattling Guns. We have so many spears near them. There we go, we're returning fire onto those Horsemen. A ton of damage. Doing good there, but our Assassins... Oh, whoops, a miscast there. Our Assassins are having a pretty hard time. And I'm not sure if we have enough Warp Fire Throwers to deal with this infantry right now. We'll have to see. And oh dear, we let our guns get jumped on again. Oh man, we have to be very careful keeping an eye on that back line. The Hounds now moving in. And our front line is getting compromised pretty badly. Honestly, this is looking very rough indeed. Let's send this assassin in towards Archaon. And we do have those Hounds pinned down. And oh dear, that Manticore is getting very close. Let's turn these guys and oh geez, Howling Warp Gale, get it down. Oh my gosh, it's a miracle. The Manticore gets snared in the sky. But I'm honestly not very sure about our front line here. It's looking very bad, to say the least. The Mirror Guard close in on the side. And honestly, against Chaos with those Ogres, not sure if this build has what it takes to win it. Especially with that misplay there, letting our Rattling Guns get sort of run over. And now we are in for a rough time. We do manage to melt the infantry a bit. We have chariots to deal with. Going to see if we're able to deal with them. Let's see, this guy is stuck in it in a huge blob fight. Let's see if we can get some Warp Lightning there to help out, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough. We're going to throw it down. And all of our guns are compromised. Honestly, he had a very nice cavalry force and Chaos Spawn, which I'm not sure we had too much of a way to deal with them. I think that's GG here. And well played from our opponent. Yeah, those Chaos Spawn did take a lot of damage, but not nearly enough. They sort of just walked up onto our Warp Fire Throwers. They really rely on being able to route units. And maybe we should have pulled our front line back in a little bit more to get our Rattling Gun fire on top of his front line. The Assassins did not do very well at all. I think I would have preferred just having normal Clan Rats there. And perhaps we do want to have more summons to hold out that front line. But then again, with a force like that, and especially because we couldn't get our Crossfire, thanks to their nice engagement timing, I'm not sure there's much our ranged builds would be able to do here. And I do think I will be ending the stream off here, as it is. We have been streaming a lot, as we have been streaming for 2 hours. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in for some crazy weapon teams shenanigans. It seems like it does very okay, but perhaps not well enough. The players engage properly. If you do want to see more of this and you are not already followed to the channel, please do. And if you want any other resources, you can scroll down and see all my YouTube content and so on. Thank you very much, guys, coming in, and I will see you not tomorrow, as we'll be taking a break, but the day after on Thursday, where Dactor will be hosting his very own tournament because of the tournament drought going on right now. And I will be helping co-cast with him on this channel. So if you're interested in that, tune in on Thursday.